Welcome, friends. This is Under the Arch Sports. I'm Eric, and today we're going to talk about five-star wide receiver Luther Burden's commitment to Mizzou. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and find us on Facebook and Instagram. Yeah, so huge news for Mizzou fans, and it's been kind of a long time coming. Luther Burden has announced his commitment to Mizzou in what is probably the highest profile recruiting win for Missouri, going back to 2012 when Dorial Green Beckham committed to Mizzou. Yeah, a little bit about Burden. He is listed at 6 foot 205. As I said, wide receiver. He used to play at Cardinal Ritter High School in St. Louis. For his senior year, he transferred over to East St. Louis High School across the river there. He is an elite recruit in this class of 2022. Rivals, 5-star, number 6 overall in the Rivals 100, number 1 wide receiver in America. And, for Missouri and Illinois, he's played in both, and he was ranked as the best overall player in each state. And then you look at 24/7 Sports. They have him rated as the 20th best player in the country and the 4th best wide receiver. And yeah, number 1 in the state. So, highly thought of recruit. This is normally the part where I go through a list of offers that a recruit had when I'm doing these videos. There's no point in doing it this time. Everybody wanted Luther Burden. He chose Mizzou over out of a final 3 that was Mizzou, Georgia, and Alabama. And before that, he spent, 9-10 months committed to Oklahoma. So, yeah, everybody wanted him. This is a part where I like to do kind of a film study about the player and just what I notice. And the first thing I notice watching Luther Burden play is that the highlight package is not kind of the same play over and over again. Now, sometimes you'll see a quarterback in a highlight package just deep ball after deep ball after deep ball, or wide receiver, just juking and the same thing over and over again. Luther Burden's good enough that he's got the versatility to beat a defender with moves, which I'll discuss in a second, but he can also beat you with sheer speed down the field. So he's not that kind of... A lot of receivers, you can just say, oh, he's a possession guy. He's the kind of guy to make you miss. He's the deep threat. Luther Burden's capable of doing it all. So that's something that is just a matchup nightmare when you have no idea if this guy is going to be going deep a lot or where he's going to go on the field. Some of the moves that he does use are a spin move that is just unfair at the high school level. I saw him on one of the clips that I watched. He jumped up to catch the ball and landed, and the very first step after landing was into the spin move, which was just an extremely athletic play. He also is able to change directions very quickly. He doesn't need to kind of, gather his momentum and just gather himself, just taking a bunch of choppy steps to change direction. He does it just boom, boom, and he is around that defender. I think it's worth noting that he's been doing a lot of his playing against some of the better teams in the St. Louis area. The St. Louis area, as far as talent, will never be mistaken for playing 6A ball in Texas or out in California, Florida, wherever. But it's some of the best in the area. So it's not just, some helpless corner who's, just playing for it's not some helpless guy out there. A lot of these guys are pretty legit athletes. That said, a lot of times they just aren't. They're not a match for Luther Burden. There's almost times where you feel bad for the defender, and the defender may be pretty good against most competition, but when you see the elite athleticism that Burden is displaying against that defender, the guy just doesn't have a chance. And that's something that, a decent amount of it will translate to college, I think. When you're looking at Luther Burden, he chose Mizzou over a Final Three of Georgia and Alabama, along with Mizzou, as I mentioned earlier. It was thought that Mizzou and Georgia were really the two that he was focusing on, and local media seemed to give Burden a pretty decent chance to commit to Mizzou. The national media was like, oh yeah, it's Georgia. I mean, why would he choose Mizzou when he can go to Georgia? Well, I'm going to answer that question for you. There's actually some pretty easy reasons to figure out. Luther Burden, being from St. Louis, Mizzou is, what? We all know it. It's, what, hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on how fast you want to drive. So it's an easy drive to get there, and that's important for family. You know, if his family wants to come see him play, or if on a long weekend during the off season he wants to go home, that's a lot easier to do being in Columbia as compared to, you know, Athens, Georgia, where it's, what, give or take 12 hours, maybe a shade under, to get to Athens. So that's a big factor. And that distance comparison comes into play when you're looking at roster makeup. And what I mean by that is Luther Burden has been to Mizzou on unofficial visits 4 or 5 times. Really just kind of, I feel like going down to Mizzou this weekend to watch team play and all that. Doing that, he's gotten to know other recruits in the class of 2022 who've been going up for visits. And he's probably going to know a small handful of the players already on the team from them just being from St. Louis as well. So at Mizzou, there is a strong sense of familiarity that just isn't possible for Georgia to match. You know, he went on an official visit to Georgia, probably met a couple commitments, maybe met a couple of players. That might be the only guys on the Georgia Bulldogs roster he's ever met. And there's just a comfort level there that, you know, Georgia can't match. And when you look at the roster from another perspective, Georgia is loaded with talent. Mizzou is not. Let's just say. For Luther Burden, going to Mizzou is an opportunity to be the guy offensively as soon as he sets foot on campus. So he will have more confidence in the fact that he's going to be the guy and he's going to get the ball and have a chance to contribute right away. That's not necessarily the case at Georgia, where, you know, Kirby Smart has been pulling in, you know, top-rated recruiting class, you know, left and right. So the talent issue there makes it that much easier. Not that he's afraid of it, but it's just he knows, okay, these other guys just aren't as good as me. So that's an advantage for Missouri in a weird way. He also can look at the class of 2022 and see the guy who may well be his quarterback, and that is Sam Horn. Sam Horn is in the Rivals 100 himself, highly rated 4-star from Georgia, who, you know, probably going to be the guy throwing to Luther Burden, and he looks awesome. There has been, on occasion, some talk about whether or not he'd get a 5th star himself. So having that is huge for Missouri. You know, what's all this mean for Mizzou and Eli Drinkwitz? Well, first off, it is the biggest recruiting win for Mizzou under Eli Drinkwitz. As I mentioned earlier, probably the biggest since Dorial Green Beckham, nearly a decade ago. It's going to get a lot of attention for beating Georgia head-to-head, along with Alabama and Oklahoma and everybody else in America. It's a badly needed shot in the arm for the program. Since this season has started, it's been, you know, it's pretty brutal for morale for everybody around the program, fans in particular. And yeah, that's really it. It's some rejuvenation for the program as Coach Drink tries to build the program and get a foundation going. Yeah, Luther Burden's a guy you can do that with. That's all I've got for this video. Congrats to Coach Drink on a huge win. Congrats, to Luther Burden for his commitment. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for checking it out. Hope to see you next time.